Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. I guess I'm going to be doing another video on the day that President Holland passed away. I was talking on the phone just a few minutes ago with my friend Mindy with Temples of Jesus channel, and we were talking about just these unusual circumstances surrounding the deaths of President Nelson and President Holland, and we realized that something pretty significant happened exactly between their two death dates. Exactly between. And now I'm starting to feel like something really important, something very special is taking place right now as we speak. So I want to read this first before we get into that. At the time that I'm recording this, about 43 minutes ago, President Oaks posted about the passing of President Holland. He says, "I grieve the passing of President Jeffrey R. Holland. Our relationship in education and church service began more than 50 years ago. It was a long and loving relationship in the work of the Lord. During my service as president of Brigham Young University, I had the privilege of inviting him, then a young scholar in his early 30s, to serve as Dean of Religious Education. From the beginning, his influence strengthened the university's sacred mission to unite spiritual purpose with academic excellence. Over the last 3 decades, as a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, he lifted the weary, encouraged the faithful, and bore a powerful witness of the Savior, even through seasons of significant personal trials. We honor his unwavering devotion, his steadfast witness of the Savior, and his inspired ability to strengthen faith and deepen understanding. We thank our Father in heaven for the blessing of shared service and for our united witness that Jesus Christ lives and directs his church today." I just want to highlight, you guys, that this is the Lord's church and he's the one that directs it. Uh, Everything from when these men pass away, it's all according to his timing and his pattern. In this case, it really feels like there is very significant timing to the passing of President Nelson and President Holland, as I'm about to show you in just a minute. But also with whoever takes their spot, takes their spot. Most recently, we had Elder Casse that was called to be an apostle. Before that, he was the presiding bishop of the church. I know that he is meant to be an apostle and that he has an important role to play. And then whoever comes next, it's meant to be. All these things were decided before the earth was even created. And I think it was President Eyring who recently said about President Oaks that he is the perfect one to lead the church today, under the Savior, of course. So, um, yeah, oh my gosh, I was just shocked by this. So let's go back. One of the first things that came to my mind as soon as I found out the news about the passing of President Holland is that he passed away on the 27th of this month. And that stuck out to me because it really stuck in my mind the fact that President Nelson passed away on the 27th of the month that he passed away, September. So we're looking at my spreadsheet called Timeline Second Coming. President Nelson passes away at the age of 101, 7 days before General Conference. President Nelson served as president of the church for 7.7 years, or 2,813 days. And because of my friend Jen Stevens with Christian Fire Poppy, make sure to subscribe to her as well. She realized that he served for exactly 7 years. So here's my spreadsheet. I haven't even named it yet. I need to do that. Right now it's just sheet 106. But I have all the dates. Okay. January 14th of 2018. That's when President Nelson became president of the church. And so here are, the 7, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And at the bottom, you can see I did account for leap years right here in, I think that's, 2021, 2025. And then 7 months. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 7 weeks right here. So It doesn't land exactly on the 7th. The 7th was the day of his funeral. He passed away on the 27th of September. But it's really, really close. I asked Jen how she did her calculation, and she did it from the time that President Monson passed away, which I still haven't updated my spreadsheet for that. But I just want to show you in general. Yeah, he served for 7 years, 7 months, 7 weeks, and 7 days. So that already by itself is really interesting. And then from the time of his passing, we've seen a lot of really interesting things. I'm not going to cover those right now. But one thing that I want to point out is the ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war that happened 3 days after President Nelson's funeral. And it's unknown whether things are going to reignite. They're trying to work out, there's different phases of this peace process. And my understanding is that they're trying to get to phase 2. But there's a significant chance that things could reignite. So I guess we'll see what happens. But now it's even more interesting that this happened between the passing of President Nelson and President Holland, especially with everything that we've talked about in recent videos about President Holland's connection to the Jews and to Israel. Well, between the passing of these two men, there was this ceasefire that was reached. Okay, and then let's skip up here, and then we'll talk what happened exactly in the middle. So President Holland was hospitalized on Christmas Eve of all days. I don't think that's coincidence. It kind of like heightens the news or the emotional impact of him going to the hospital. I don't know if that's the reason why, but and then today on the 27th, he passed away. So on the 27th, just like President Nelson, on the Hebrew calendar, it's the 7th of Tevet, which is the first winter month, or the month that's associated with the tribe of Dan. I've talked about the significance of that in the past, the month of Tevet. And then he passed away on the Jewish Sabbath. So I feel like all those things are significant. Well, after talking to Mindy, I was talking about how I thought it was significant that the Aurora took place. We had yet another Aurora display that could be seen throughout the United States, which is very unusual. We did have 2 of them last year, which that by itself, even the first one, I was like, okay, I cannot believe that this is happening. This is a once in a lifetime event. That was back in May of 2024. And then it happened again in October of 2024. And at that point, I was like, okay, something really special is happening. This is a year full of signs in the heavens. And so when it happened again this year, and by the way, I witnessed that myself from South Central Kansas. I never thought I would see the Aurora anywhere in my life, but especially not in Kansas. Well, now living in Independence, Missouri, it happened again on November 11th. And it was seen throughout the United States. Here's an NPR article. Lights as far south as Florida. Okay, so this was yet a third of these events that we've experienced over the last couple of years. And thank goodness I was able to get these pictures as well as video of it from the temple lot. It's just stunning. And when this happened, what was on my mind at the time was the fact that Elder Cossé had recently been called to the Quorum of the 12. That was on November 6th. And then this happened on the night of November 11th, and then it carried over into the morning hours of November 12th. Okay, so I was at the temple lot. I was able to get these amazing pictures. I don't know if anybody else has pictures like this out there. I'd be interested to see if there are any, but I don't know. I feel like these are kind of one-of-a-kind pictures. I took as many as I could. This one is not that great, but I got this picture of the Community of Christ temple, and you can see the red right there. Community of Christ did get a good picture of their temple, better than this one that I have. So you can go find that on their Facebook page. But, and then I did a video for Explore Church sites. In case you want to watch this, I'll put a link for this in the description box below. It doesn't show up as well in video. In person, it actually did look like this. Like this right here is not an exaggeration. This is what it actually looked like. And so in the video, not so much. But I did this. I did a live stream. Many of you joined me for that. And so I was talking to Mindy. I was like, it's interesting that this happened between the death of President Nelson and President Holland. It's so interesting that he was president of the church and President Holland was president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. They started out President Nelson's presidency by going to Jerusalem on a 7-country tour, and it was a special moment. And now they die exactly 3 months apart. And so I was like, it's interesting that we had this Aurora, but in my mind, as I was trying to just I just kind of thought about it in my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, that's not in the middle because we're in December. November was just last month. It can't have been in the middle. And then Mindy, she was like doing it on her phone or on her computer, and then she audibly gasped. It was like, no, it was exactly in the middle. I was like, no way. And so, I double checked. And so you have this website, not that I didn't believe her, but you should always double check things. I went to timeanddate.com. They have this calculator for days between 2 dates. So if you go from September 27th, which is the day that President Nelson passed away, to 11/11, the first day of the Aurora, it's 45 days or 1 month and 15 days, which is already by itself is kind of interesting. It's like 1.5 months. And then if you go from the 12th, like I said, it started the night of the 11th. It carried into the morning hours of the 12th. If you go from the 12th until today, the day that President Holland passed away, it's 45 days, 1 month and 15 days. So that Aurora took place exactly between those 2 death dates. And you know that the only one that's in control of the sun and auroras is the Lord. Why would he do that? If there wasn't a connection between President Nelson and President Holland in their passing, why would he do that? It's exactly in the middle. Before last year, I don't doubt that there's been other times that the Aurora was visible throughout the United States, but I don't remember a time in my lifetime. Maybe it's just because now we have smartphones and so we can capture it more easily, because in some locations you have to use the long exposure mode to actually see it. But I don't know. I had never seen it with the naked eye. I don't remember any news stories saying, hey, look up tonight because there's going to be the Aurora. Have you? Have you guys seen the Aurora from Arizona, Kansas, Florida, Texas before 2024? Let me know in the comments below. But even so, even if that is the case, if it's happened before, I don't think that there's been a time before that it's happened so frequently. May of 2024, October 2024, and then November of 2025. It just seems very unusual. And for this last one, the third one, to land exactly between the passing of the president of the church and the president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, both of which were in Jerusalem together, I don't know what to say. So I feel like we can safely say something special is going on right now. And we should probably pay attention, make sure that we're on the covenant path, become true disciples of Jesus Christ, so that, like President Holland said, when he comes, he recognizes us as true, faithful disciples. We need to be his people when he comes. So we need to put away contention. We need to try and mend relationships the best that we can. We need to be worthy to have a temple recommend, and then to actually have one. It's not enough just to be worthy. You should have a recommend. I don't know, just things get stranger and stranger as time goes on, and there's more and more of these type of events taking place. It feels like what Elder Maxwell described as a compression of events. Since the passing of President Nelson, there have been a ton of things that have happened. There has been no shortage of content for me to create for this channel. It's really kicked up to another gear since his passing. And this is just the latest thing. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.